Hello, how is everyone doing? It is your fallen angel back with another video. And as you can tell by the title, we are going over realism versus IQ. Now, they go hand in hand, but there is a very big difference between realism versus high IQ. We have many individuals who are definitely high IQ, but they lack realism. And we have people that are high realistic or high realism, but they lack the IQ. So we're going to just jump in and explain both. Realism is simply being in touch with reality, choosing to believe ugly truths rather than happy lies, right? A lot of people think idealistically rather than realistically. That's kind of the society we live in. People want to think idealistically rather than live in the reality of what is actually going on. Those with high realism prioritize facts over feelings and fill their minds with what they perceive to be true, even if it offends their sensibilities. Those with low realism prioritize feelings over facts and will reject something they subconsciously realize is true if it offends their sensibilities. So guys, we see this many times in society. People will often reject certain notions, certain ideologies because it offends them, right? It offends their feelings. It offends their limbic system, and they'll never allow their neocortex to see both sides and to just see what is reality. If a person rejects the truth when there is plenty of evidence to support that thing is true, they probably aren't doing this to a lack of IQ points. Usually, it's due to a lack of realism. So same thing, guys. We know many people that are intrinsically smart, but they are not realistic, right? They would rather live in delusion, right? They're not going to see this perspective because they lack realism. You might think that realism is simply an extension of IQ, but you would be wrong. To have a high IQ is to have immense processing power, or the ability to use the neocortex. To have high realism is to be in touch with reality. That's why we hear the terms street smarts versus book smarts, right? There are many high IQ people who are hopelessly out of touch with reality. Some say things like IQ isn't real and gender is just a social construct. See, we see the two are two paradoxes, right? Because we know that on one side of the scale, IQ is the processing, and then realism is just understanding that this is realism. This is realistic. A person with high IQ and high realism has a mind with immense processing power and will use that cognitive horsepower to figure out what the truth is. A person with high IQ but low realism has a mind with immense processing power, and they will use their cognitive horsepower to manufacture rationalizations for lies that appeal to their sensibilities rather than for the sake of finding the truth. So this is also cognitive bias. We've explained this on our dark psychology playlist. People often look for bias. They would look for bias that approves what they're already thinking. And if you're looking for something that proves it, you will find it, right? So more than likely, people are living off their own bias. They refuse to see realism, and they refuse to use their IQ to see both sides and rationally think for themselves. They'd rather someone else do the thinking for them, right? They might be high IQ, but they might not be realistic. Historically and contemporary examples of people with high IQs but low realism are endless. So yes, there's plenty of people that are what we quote unquote intelligent, but there is very low realism around them, right? We know many people that are in high fields, in the medical fields, but they are considered high IQ, high submissiveness, but they are low on the realistic scale, right? These are people that are low on the realism scale, right? They don't see the world around them, what's going on. They only see what they were indoctrinated. There are high IQ university professors who honestly believe that there are no behavioral or psychological differences between men and women driven by biology and genetics. Yes, this is true. Many university professors think there is nothing different, when intrinsically, the left and right hemisphere brain are in play, the triune brain is in play, estrogen versus testosterone is in play. All these things are in play to show you genetic differences, processing powers, and how the thought process works, whether it be an emotional response or a non-emotional response. There are high IQ priests who believe in God, but will laugh at the child who believes in Santa Claus, not realizing they are both equally delusional. There are high IQ intellectuals who think communism is a viable economic system. Men average higher on realism than women, and amongst the people with the best realism, almost all of them are men. Yes, we see this more than likely. We see that most men are going to be more realistic, right? They're not going to live in delusion. Most men, right? Just because we're saying most men live in a higher realism doesn't mean that they're high IQ. The high IQ, high realism is a very, 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 very small percentile of people. This is like 0.1% of men that are actually high realism and high IQ, right? This is usually the psychopaths, the autistics, and people that are just outliers. It has been noticed by many autistic men are often exceptionally good at logical reasoning. Autists usually don't have exceptionally high IQs. What they do have is exceptionally high realism, right? Many autistic men or autistic people in general, they don't care about how you feel. They just care about what is right, right? They don't care about social norms usually don't exist for people like that. They usually aren't going to look out for your feelings. They're not thinking, oh, what would this person feel or what would they think after I say this? They're not worried about the outcome. They're more worried about the factuals. And that is what differentiates realism versus IQ. To be clear, men in general should not be given too much credit. Most men, like almost all women, are very low on realism. A minority of men are high realism. They are disproportionately autistic. So, for the most part, like we said, high IQ, high realism, this is a very, very rare trait. This is amongst the geniuses, psychopaths, and the autistics, because they are seeing things in a different lens. They're not using their limbic system to alter thought process. They're using only the neocortex to get you that final answer, that the horsepower brain to just get you that final answer without the use of reason, without the use of emotion, right? So this is what differentiates realism versus high IQ, and how both of them are needed for the dark triad. And many people will confuse themselves. They will say, I am a high realist and I'm a high IQ person, but in reality, they're neither. So it is essential to understand both differentiating parts of this. So guys, this was realism versus high IQ. Feel free to like and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below. Check us out on Patreon, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, things of that nature. This has been your fallen angel, and I am out.